Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Demystifying AI webinar presented by Weidenhammer. My name is Jody Pillard, and I'm the CRO here at Weidenhammer, and I'm really excited about today. We've got a ton of great content and two really good experts from our team that will be taking us through it. First, we'll have Don Douglas, Senior Cloud Solutions Architect for us, and then he'll be followed by Chris Smith, who's a Director in our Analytics and Cloud Technologies practice. And just a little bit of housekeeping real quickly. You probably saw, but just wanted to highlight that this session is being recorded. So by continuing to stay on, you grant your consent to be recorded. We will share a copy of the recording with everybody after this session so that you can rewatch, you can share the content. Perhaps if anybody on your team was unable to make it, but you'd like them to see it, you'll be able to do that as well. So from this point forward, we are recording. And so a little bit of a rundown of what our schedule looks like today. First, we've got an hour and we're going to go through in that time, what is AI? So we'll take you through, Don will come on and take you through a bit of the history and timeline of AI. AI itself is not a new concept, but there have been a lot of changes and developments in that sphere over time. So Don will explain that. He'll take us through what some of the different types are, what some of the subsets are, and then why all of a sudden about 18 months ago did this seem to explode, and kind of feels like it came out of nowhere, but in many ways it's been in the works for decades. So Don will explain that, and then he'll actually take us through some of the value that you can get out of it, what you can do with it for your organization, and I'll actually show you within Microsoft 365 what that looks like in some specific use cases. From there, we will get into Copilot, and Copilot specifically, that will actually be covered in the demo of how that fits into the puzzle of AI. Copilot is a Microsoft-specific term. Don will talk more about that. And then Chris will get into how do I customize that if I have a particular use case or a specific situation within my business or my organization, how do I take advantage of some of that extensibility? And then also, how do I make sure my data is ready? This is a very data-driven element here, and we want to make sure it's secure, it's private, it's safe, and it's accurate. So Chris will take us through that. And then he'll also talk about how you start to roll this out and culturally within your organization with things like training and adoption. Then a common question is, how do I get started? So that's something we call pre-flight, and I'll take you through what we've developed to help organizations get started with that. And we'll make sure to leave time at the end for questions and answers. So if you look at the top of your screen, there's a little Q&A button. You can click that and enter in that little chat at any point, any questions you may have. We will save those for the end, and then we'll bring the group back together and answer those live. If we run out of time and don't get to them all, we'll follow up with all of those along with the recording. So with that, Don is going to take us through that timeline, that history, and really defining some of the terminology that we're going to be using throughout today's session. So Don, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, thanks, Jody. So if you're like a lot of people, you might think that AI is a brand new thing that OpenAI invented a couple years ago. But in fact, it goes back a lot further than that. It goes all the way back into the 50s. What we see here is a couple of the main milestones, but there's been a lot along the way. Starting with Alan Turing in 1950, inventing the Turing test to determine if a computer could pass for a human in written linguistic fluency. That test is still used today and applied against the new models as they come out. Arthur Samuel at IBM coined the term machine learning in 1959, which is part of AI. And then in 2006, Geoffrey Hinton at the University of Toronto came up with the term deep learning and some fast learning algorithms to explain how AI based on machine learning can learn like a human. If we jump forward to 2021, we see generative AI hit the scene, and this is what launched us into the era of AI that we're in today. This is why you can't have a conversation or buy a tool that doesn't have AI involved in it. And the reason for that paradigm shift or that tipping point is before 2021, before that generative AI was really a recognizer. Right? It was based on structured data like databases. AI could recognize some stuff in images, pick up on keywords, chatbots work like menu selectors, and AI was really a behind the scenes tool that was operated and maintained by experts in AI and machine learning and things like that. You as an end user then interacted with the output of AI. with generative AI in 2021, it's now able to reference mass amounts of structured and unstructured data. It's creating new content and new outputs based off of what it's learning in that data. And AI is starting to do things like win art contests against people. It's passing legal exams. It's changing the way we think and the way we work and the way we live. And that's dramatically transforming our lives. And Gen AI is now used by everybody. It's open to the masses. It's not behind a locked door. You're able to interact with it directly through natural language prompts. Going through those different flavors and how you might have come across them and interacted with them, looking at artificial intelligence, you can think personal assistant devices. For machine learning, that's predictive analytics, logistics, things like that, how your Amazon package gets to you in one day. Deep learning, things like image recognition. If you've ever been in Google Maps and you went to Street View and you see everybody's faces are blurred out, there's not somebody sitting there blurring faces. That's AI recognizing what a human face looks like and automatically blurring that out for you. And then we get to generative AI for content generation. And now we're talking about things like ChatGPT, the DALL-E image creator, things like that to create new content. What all that means is not all AI is Gen AI, but not every business need requires Gen AI. And Copilot that we're going to talk about today is a family of Gen AI products, but not all Gen AI is Copilot. What that all boils down to is these are all still valid forms of AI. They all have valid business use cases, and organizations are going to need to understand what mix of AI flavors that they're going to need to achieve their goals. So if we take out another layer deep, what is Copilot specifically? So Microsoft 365 Copilot, or you might have heard it called Copilot for M365, takes the large language models combined with your data and the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft 365 apps and allows you to access it through natural language to turn your words into the most powerful productivity tool you've ever had. It's accessing your calendar, your email, your chats, your documents, your contacts to give it business content and context so that when you give it a natural language prompt like, tell my team how we updated the product strategy, it's able to go out, take a look at your meetings, your emails, your chats, and generate a status update about that product strategy and how it was updated. Copilot is integrated right into the M365 apps, the productivity tools you're already using, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and that allows you to use it without leaving the flow of work. And it's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to security, compliance, privacy, and responsible AI. This is enterprise class, it's enterprise ready, and it's going to adhere to your security policies and practices that you've already got in place. This slide is to explain Copilot for M365 that you see up in the upper left is what we're talking about today, and that's one member of the Copilot family. You can think of Copilot like a brand of AI products. What's on the screen is the main 6 that you hear a lot about right now, but there's, in fact, over 20 different Copilots that are either in production or in some level of preview and coming soon. So now that we know what AI is, what Copilot is, how do we start to integrate those into our day-to-day and how we work? So the term for all the busy work and the time-consuming repetitive tasks that we all have crammed into our workdays is called digital debt. It's this digital debt that's keeping us from really being productive and creative and innovative in our roles. The stats you're looking at on the screen tell us that everybody wants to contribute more, but it's not possible because of that digital debt. And that's where Copilot can really help us to unlock that potential in our workdays and in our companies to generate transformative change. So in short, generative AI represents an enormous opportunity for everyone. Looking at what that opportunity is, Harvard Business School and Boston Consulting Group gave us a glimpse behind the curtain to companies that are already embracing generative AI. And the study showed us that Gen AI allowed users to decrease the time that they're spending on tasks by 25%, while increasing their task completion rates by 12% and providing a 40% increase in the quality of work. That's huge. That's going to have a massive impact, not only for that employee, but their company, and most importantly, the experience they're providing to their clients and customers. So what does that mean for the company, for the organization? How does that impact the bottom line? According to a study from IDC, For every dollar that companies are investing in AI, they're realizing an average of $3.50 in return and seeing a return on their AI investments within 14 months of deployment on average. And the organizations that are embracing AI have experienced an 18% increase in market share, as well as customer satisfaction and employee productivity. Let that one sink in. It's an enormous impact. And that's why 87% of organizations believe that AI is going to give them a competitive edge. So many of you are probably thinking, that all sounds amazing. The numbers are great, but what does Copilot for M365 really look like, and what does it do? To answer that, I recorded a quick demo, and we're going to play that for you here today.
All right. So for our demo today, we're going to do a day in the life of Lee. Lee's a small business owner. He owns AdventureWorks bicycles, and he's got a lot on his plate. We're going to follow along and see how Copilot helps him keep up with his day. Like most of us, he starts his day in Outlook. He's got an email here from his tax preparer, and he needs to go over some reports. He's got some discrepancies. So he's going to reply. And rather than write all that up, we're going to click on apologize and confirm review. It's going to say, hey, sorry about the discrepancies. I promise I'll take a look at all that. We like it. We're going to keep it. I've got a nice professional email I could send out with like 3 clicks of the mouse, right? Now, looking down through our email, I see we've got a recall on a part. That's pretty major for us. I'm going to look at that. We're 5 emails deep here. I don't have time to look at all that. I've got some meetings and stuff to get to, so I'm going to have Copilot summarize that for me, and then it's going to bring back the main points of the whole email thread, break it down by who said what, and if I need to get some more content or context, or see where something was said, I can click on the little citations and it'll jump me right to that email from that person. And now I'm up to speed. I know what's going on. I know what part's being recalled. I need to get a draft email pulled together to send out to our customers. So I'm going to have Copilot help me out with that. All I've done is taken a look at that summary there. I don't want to miss any kind of details. So I'm going to have Copilot write this for me, let everybody know about the recall of Derailer Part D2250. So this is a business communication. I want to make sure it's formal. We're going to go with the long length to get as many details in here as possible. And now Copilot, using that context that we talked about, it's looking at all the chats, all my meetings, all my emails, and it's pulling together information and maybe details that I would have missed if I attempted to write this myself. But now I've got a nice email generated here that I could send out to customers, and it's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to hold on to that. That's the draft I'm going to use to let everybody know what's going on. Now I'm up to speed on my email. I need to jump into that meeting. And so I am going to get out of Outlook, and I'm going to get into my Teams client here. And look at that, I'm already 45 minutes late for the meeting about this recall. So I'm going to join and get into my meeting here. And when it opens up, you're going to see Copilot knows I'm late. It's not going to make everybody repeat everything that they just said. I can just open up Copilot. It'll recap the meeting so far and bring back the points. I can very quickly go through 4 bullet points here, be up to speed on what's going on. And then Copilot can even help me suggest some follow-up questions to make sure I've got a full understanding of what's going on. And we wrap up our meeting. We're getting on with our day. And as the boss, I need to make sure I understand all our decisions and follow up, make sure everybody's doing what they need to from that meeting. So if I jump into my chat, I've got my meeting here, and if I go into my recap, Copilot's given me an intelligent recap. I could go through the video if I want, or I could jump over here and take a look at meeting notes, and it summarizes who was there, who talked about what the topic of the meeting was, and follow-up tasks. I can look at mentions, see if I was brought up before I was even on the meeting, see if there's anything I need to do there, jump into my transcript, and if I had time, I can literally read every word everybody said. That's not a great use of my time. So I'm going to jump into Copilot. Copilot's going to allow me to kind of talk to that transcript and find out things like, hey, what decisions were made? How are we moving forward as a company? What do I need to know? And it'll bring that back for us. And we're going to do some lists of action items. Name them, who's doing what and who's responsible for what. That way, as a boss, I can follow up and make sure we're following through as a team. Now, I'm trusting my team. They're moving forward with that recalls in play, and I now need to figure out, hey, what's the financial impact of this? So I'm going to jump out of my Teams client here, and I'm going to get into Excel. I've got a spreadsheet here. It's got all my data in it about my sales for the year, and I need to get some information out of this to make some decisions around my recall. So I'm going to open up Copilot because I've got hundreds of lines here. I'm not going to try to read that and figure it out myself. Copilot works with data in a table, so it gives us a quick, easy convert button there, and I can start doing things like do some calculations with formula columns, highlight text, things like that. I'm going to get started with highlighting, and I wanted to show me, hey, top 10 values in year-to-date quantity sold. So what are my top 10 selling bikes, essentially? And it's going to go through and just that quick build those out for me. And let's say I want to follow that up, do some more highlighting, and let's highlight the top 10% sold in yellow. So I'm going to overlay that information here, and just that quick, it's going to give me that. I can go up here and take a look at what it's been doing. I could have did all that myself. It would have taken a lot longer. Instead, I just, in plain English, asked Copilot. Now, I need to dig a little deeper here. I'm going to do a formula column, and I need it to calculate, hey, what is my total profit by ID? So total profit by bike, essentially. And it's going to go through, understand the data that's in this table, understand what the numbers mean, and actually generate a formula for us to figure out what that is. I'm not 100% sure what the formula means. I can have it explain it in words I can understand. And if that looks like what I'm trying to do, insert column. Now I've got a profit column. I need to take this another level deep. I'm worried about that derailleur part, the actual recall itself. So I'm going to ask, hey, what is the total profit based on derailleur type? And it's going to go through, understand how to pull that information out for me and create a great little pivot table. I could throw that on a new sheet. Now I've got the data, I've got a visual chart, and I can tell my recalled part is my third highest selling derailleur, and that's the profit margin that's going to get impacted here. Now I've got data, I can make data-driven decisions on all this. And while I'm working on all that, my team gets back to me, lets me know, hey, we've got a delay in the parts that we need to do these repairs. We're going to have to get an announcement out. So I'm going to drop out of Excel and get back into Word here. And once again, Copilot saves the day. Hey, write a press release announcing the delay in the recalled bike parts, communicate our next steps. I don't have to tell it what the next steps are. Again, it's going to understand that from what's in my calendar, from what's in my email, from what's in my chat, all that information. It's going to be able to pull all that detail out and create this for me. Now, this is a formal press release. I think my language here is a little informal, so I'm going to ask it to dress that up a bit, and it'll go through and do that for me. Now I'm liking this language. We're going to go ahead and keep that. And I need to make sure we are actually calling out the specific recalled part in our press release so that there's not confusion. So I'm going to ask Copilot, hey, did we name it? And sure enough, we did. So I'm happy about that. And I'm feeling like it's missing a little something, but I'm not quite sure what to add. So I'm going to have Copilot inspire me. And Copilot's going to take a look at this information, all the information it knows about the recall, and it actually creates a really helpful FAQ here for our customers. So I'm loving that. I'm going to keep that. I've got a press release ready to go. So now all my communications are rolling. Team's good to go. I need to actually start doing these repairs. That means I need an extra mechanic. I've hired somebody. They're starting tomorrow, but I need to create an onboarding presentation. I need to get them up to speed on working at AdventureWorks bicycles. So I'm going to jump out of Word here and actually go into PowerPoint. And I've got some thoughts about the onboarding, and I've put them into a document for mechanic onboarding here, but it's not really a presentation. It's not, something fancy I want to share. So I'm going to have Copilot get that information and create this really nice looking PowerPoint for me here. And I can start dressing it up with things like organizing it, which is going to put it into sections here, create section title slides for me. I can add a slide right after the first one. Let's get our company motto in there, right? Let's get some company flavor, and it's going to build that slide out for me. But I'm feeling like it's a little boring. So we're going to use Dolly and actually have it generate an image that goes along with our motto here of a person on a mountain bike. And so it'll create that, drop it in there. That's feeling good, but it's missing some pizzazz. Hit our little microphone here and actually say, hey, make all the headers blue. and it makes all the headers blue. And just like that, we're ready to onboard our new mechanic, and we're going to have a successful recall. That is a whirlwind day in the life of Lee for our demo today.
All right. So hopefully that helped everybody understand a little bit about what AI is, what Copilot is, how they fit together, how they fit into your day-to-day. We're going to kick it over to Chris. Chris is going to walk us through extending and customizing Microsoft Copilot to custom fit it to your organization. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, thanks, Don. Really exciting stuff. So Don just showed some of the amazing capabilities of M365 Copilot and what it can do in the box, as I'll call it. Now what we're going to do is take you through a tour of what it means to customize Copilot. What we're going to do is we're going to review when and why an organization want to consider customization or extensibility of Copilot. We'll then go into some example use cases from the field. We'll then go into a quick demo, just like Don did, of a custom Copilot in action. And then finally, we'll review some of the preparation and adoption strategies that an organization really needs to consider in order to perform a full Copilot rollout. M365 Copilot is great, but businesses often want to apply the same conversation-based Gen AI to specialized business processes and or private or public business data. This is where the concept of Copilot customization comes in. Depending on the need and data locations, and quite frankly, the integrity and quality of the data, implementing a custom Copilot can be a simple or a complex effort that requires professional development. I should just note here, all of the platforms, plugins, deployment channels, and such that I'm going to be reviewing here are still currently in preview. That's a term that Microsoft uses quite a bit to essentially say it's available for evaluation by IT professionals like us, but not something that you would implement in a production capacity. So when would you extend the default capabilities and functionality of an M365 Copilot, as Don was just showing? So when you want to go outside of the domains of what Don was presenting there, and you want to expose it to data that is considered sources that are outside of either your M365 domain or your D365, meaning Dynamics tenants. Another reason for customization is to consistently handle certain prompts, topics, or keywords with business logic relevant to internal or client-facing business processes. You may also want to create a custom Copilot to utilize a siloed set of data. A custom Copilot can more precisely act in a specific capacity for defined end user roles and groups, allowing for tighter security, control, and constraints on the information being relayed by Gen AI. A custom Copilot's learning background and knowledge can be isolated from the cosm of M365, everything you have in OneDrive for Business or SharePoint or whatnot, and focus solely on a particular subset of business data. Additionally, security and entitlements of your sources of data can be more effectively managed using a custom Copilot. Custom Copilots connect to your organization's data using what's called connectors or plugins. A lot of these, if your organization uses anything in Power Platform, whether it be Power Apps or Power Automate, you may already have some of these connectors in play. There are really three steps to fully adopting Copilot within your organization. Step one is a lot of what Don had presented to you previously there, and that's the M365 Copilot rollout. Step two is extending M365 Copilot with ready-to-use third-party connectors and plugins. Note some of these plugins can be custom developed if necessary. Say if if it goes against a ERP system or an operational source system that doesn't yet have a third-party plugin available. Then step three is when you build your own copilots that are knowledgeable only to the data you specifically provide to train, or as we call it, ground it upon. These copilots can be deployed to different channels or deployment channels to provide end users better attainability to Gen AI assistance. And then really just not to get technical, but just here's a really high-level graphic just showing what a custom Copilot looks like. Long story short, on the right-hand side, you have your business's data. This could be flat files, blobs as we call them, relational data sources such as Oracle or SQL Server. Then on the left here, you have your interface, your chatbot, your custom application, your Power Apps application, Teams, whatever it might be. Then in the middle, you have all of these services that Microsoft provides for creating custom AI and Gen AI. There are really three general categories for use cases of customizing Copilot. The first is business to employee. Here we might have just a couple examples of business to employee type customizations. You may have a IT service management that needs custom prompts such as check the progress of a current help desk ticket or initiate a request for device upgrades. Maybe that's connected to ServiceNow or Zendesk. Human resources, they might need prompts such as start onboarding sequence for a new team member and have that connected to your HR system. That might be something like Workday. Frontline workers may need custom prompts that allow help with prompts like how do I find the manual for product XYZ, or how do I fix a printing machine model XB100. Legal and compliance may use custom prompts such as summarize the latest updates to our brand usage guidelines or explain the company's stance on intellectual property rights. Next category is business to business. Here you might have certain custom prompts such as in the domain of project management, give me a summary of completed tasks for project X in the second phase, or list the pending deliverables for phase 2. Supplier management, show the fulfillment status for a particular purchase order or track the shipment for a recent bulk order. Sales enablement, generate a quote for a large-scale supply of office essentials, helping the business assess the lead potential of a prospective client. Then finally, the third category is business to consumer. These types of prompts may be for, say, customer support, guiding a customer through the product return process, or fielding requests such as help me with account recovery, product consultation, recommend best product configuration based on my interests as I would apply them. Maybe it's photography or hiking or something like that. And service booking, navigate the customer through the scheduling of a service appointment with a query such as check availability for in-store consultations on Thursday. So now we went through, after going through those use cases, we'll do the same thing Don here did there, and we'll see a custom Copilot in action. Just to set the stage for this demo, this is a review of an enterprise chat application for a fictional electronics company called Contoso Electronics. The chat application is deployed as a website. It could also be deployed as Teams and various other channels, as you'll see, and is grounded on just Contoso's data. Nothing from the internet, nothing from any other source, just Contoso's data. The Gen AI bot has also been programmed to only focus on questions regarding HR, employee benefits, and the organization itself. So I'll go ahead and kick this demo recording off here. Now you notice this is, again, like I said, this is a custom web application that uses Gen AI deployed to Azure. And you'll notice that the demo app, you get a lot of options with the demo app. I have it provide some sample questions to ask it. You clicked on it, I asked the question, what happens? It came back with a quick answer. And you see here, we're able to put citations in it. You're able to then click on that and see the actual source of the information. You'll also notice I have a flyaway on the left here, or the right here, that allows me to change some of the capabilities that you can do in programming and custom development with AI. Here, I just made it a little more precise. It's almost the same question, almost the same response, but it's a little more precise in what it's trying to do. You may, depending on your need, you may want your Gen AI Copilot to be more precise, or you might want more information to be provided. Here, I'm just having an example, give me some history about the company. Since that information is exposed, it will reply with that. You'll see here on the developer settings, I just had it, just checked a box to ensure that after every response, we suggest follow-up questions, which is a very helpful feature. And you can see now we have follow-up questions that can then be clicked upon and enact that question then as well. And it comes back with that, and you see that we still get the citations, which can be handy if the end user is wondering where this information came from. We'll then now just go through a couple more examples that showcase what you can do from a custom perspective here. How can employees prepare for a performance review? You see that it can generate a bullet list of that information. You can see how quickly it turns that around. We then click on some of the follow-up questions here. And again, you see the normal citations and such. We can keep this conversation going so that the Gen AI chatbot has context to the conversation in general. It doesn't keep that history, but in the context of the conversation, since I have not cleared it, it keeps it. You also see here, I just wanted to show an example. There's a lot of fear out there about hallucinations of Copilot and Gen AI, and coming up with questions that are not true just because it didn't know the answer. And you saw there that we just showed a little, just back up there for a second. You'll see there that it just showed the code. It showed an example of not knowing the answer, but being able to say, I don't know. It's okay not to know. And that's something you can do with a Gen AI, with a custom Gen AI Copilot as well. So we'll just go through a few more examples here. And then one more example. And then the next thing I'm going to show is you'll notice when I'm going to actually type in something here that generates a list. This could be a bulleted list or a numbered list. You're going to notice that the listing is going to have 3 answers to it. This is also a setting that you can do. So we get answer number 1, and I ask the question to summarize the goals of the company. So we're at 1, 2, and 3. One of the follow-ups are there any other goals in the company? And then it starts off again with 4, 5, and you could have done 6 or 7, and so forth. You'll see here, I'm going to show the flyout again, and this again is something that you can customize. The retrieval search results was set to 3. I just set it to 5. Now I'm going to ask the same question to our Gen AI Copilot. And you'll see now it not only does 1, 2, 3, but it'll include as many as 5 responses in the response. So then ask one other question I happen to know is going to be a list. And you'll see also that since we set that in the context of the bot logic itself, it too is going to provide up to 5 generative answers for me. Okay. Again, one last feature I'm going to show related to customization of Copilot is, and this really it doesn't really take a lot of programming. It's something that you could, you'll see what I did here is using natural language. I am telling Copilot, I'm giving Copilot and Gen AI a directive on demeanor. I'm using a little bit of levity here. I'm telling it to talk like Rocky Balboa from the movie Rocky. This is where you might say you're a chatbot that deals with external users, and you must be very professional and formal. You must start every response with "good day" or something like that. But again, just for levity's sake, I'll tell our Gen AI Copilot to speak like the character from the movie. And here you go. It gives a quick answer, generative answer, and even starts with "Yo, Adrian." Okay. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of a sense of what you can do with a custom Copilot, and we were able to see that in action. This Gen AI bot was grounded on only the specific data from the organization, and it was deemed safe for intended internal end users. Before you can introduce your business's data to Gen AI and custom Copilots, the data and their access points must be of high integrity and properly secure. This is called data estate readiness. When I use the term data estate readiness, I'm referring to all data sources and files used for business processes or affected by business systems. And those systems could be any, what we call an operational source system, ERP system or CRM system, something like that. To assess an organization's data estate, we look at 4 key areas of readiness: data preparation, data quality, data documentation, and data access. And I'll just note here real quick, these assessment points are nothing new. This is something that we've been doing for years when we consult organizations and businesses on assessing a new BI strategy that might include a data warehouse or a data lakehouse or something like that. A lot of the same key analysis points apply here. Just a little bit on each tier. Data preparation, in short, is about making the desired data available to the desired end users. Data quality deals with ensuring the data is complete and reportable as possible and provided in a way where the business needs it to be and for reporting purposes. And since it can be reported this way, it can also be more effectively grounded, as we call it, or trained using Gen AI. Data documentation is all about ensuring the organization has the appropriate, what we call data dictionaries or business data glossaries established. And finally, data access is ensuring that the data is only exposed to the appropriate entitled parties. More on security and entitlements, can't stress how important it is to understand data governance and how crucial it is to apply data governance within your organization before exposing any of your data sources to Gen AI. Gen AI makes getting things done very easy. And much, I'll say, easier, but it also makes it easier to see everything you have access to, even when you shouldn't. So no longer can we, not that we ever should, but no longer can we rely on the good old-fashioned security by obscurity within the organization. One more note on security and privacy. Microsoft touts, if you go to their website, they have a lot out there on it. They have a lot out there on responsible AI, and they guarantee the following at a very high level. They will never use your customer data to train foundational models used by Copilot. But they also guarantee that your data is stored in your geographic tenant. So if your M365 tenant is US East, your data is stored in the East. It's not anywhere else. Encryption, both at rest and in transit, helps provide protections against unauthorized access, disclosure, sharing, or usage of the data. And then lastly, Microsoft, again, all this is out there on their corporate web presence. Microsoft aligns with many global standards and consortiums working to enforce responsible and private AI usage. So we've talked about when and why to implement a custom Copilot. We've then demoed an example of using a company-specific data, and we've gone through the importance of corporate data readiness. Now I'm just going to touch briefly on some of the points of Gen AI adoption. Microsoft's Copilot customization tools allow for easy deployment of custom Copilots to a variety of channels. And I can't stress how easy this is. Literally clicking the button and you can deploy to some of these channels in real time. Some of those include, as you can see with the logos, Teams, Power Apps, custom websites, and eventually some of these other logos such as Facebook and Skype and Slack. Note that many of these channels are still in preview. Some of them are not even in preview yet, meaning IT professionals such as us haven't had the chance to evaluate them yet. This is important. The fact that they've streamlined this deployment with what they call channels is very important, because the deployment channels such as Teams or a custom website or something like that allows the organizations to adopt Gen AI quickly by providing it to your organization's workforce using a bottom-up as opposed to a traditional top-down approach for adoption. More on this, recently businesses have found that instead of a top-down approach, which has often been the adoption strategy for BI that we've been doing for years, encouraging corporate AI adoption through a bottom-up process allows your greatest thinkers to more quickly empower themselves on AI's capabilities. This in turn makes it quicker for them to identify other key business processes and areas where AI can be deployed. This is very important because without their content, there's really you don't get the exposure to what to do next with Gen AI adoption within the organization. So I hope this presentation has been helpful and has started you thinking of how and where to start with a custom Gen AI journey within your organization. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Jody.
Thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate it. And so now, at this point, we know the background and history of generative AI. We know what Copilot is and what it can provide for organizations. We understand what it can do out of the box and what it can do with some customization. So the most common question we tend to get at this point is, how do I get started? How do I really begin my journey this way? So we have developed what we call pre-flight, and this is a specific offering that's designed to address that exact question. And so first, you need to prepare. And by preparing, you need to define a handful of things up front. First is, what are you trying to get out of this? What is really the value that you're seeking out of using AI? Once you've established that, we want to understand where are the processes or areas within the organization that might benefit the most from using these tools. Then, where are you currently? What is the organization's current status and capability level in terms of AI? Have people started? Have people not at all? Somewhere in between, probably the case. Then what is your data estate, to use that term that Chris used? What is all your information and data that your organization has stored? What does that look like? Is it organized? Is it set up properly for security? Things like that. And then, does your organization have the right wherewithal in terms of resources, personnel, technology, investment, and so forth to support the initiatives that you're trying to undertake here? So once you've prepared, then, okay, what's the process we go through as part of this engagement? First, we're going to take your team and key stakeholders. This is a very collaborative and interactive engagement, by the way. So we're going to get together with key folks in different lines of business, different areas of the organization that understand different use cases and jobs so that they can both learn and advise as we go through this process. So we want to help bring everyone up to speed, develop that baseline of what's possible, what are some example use cases, and how can this be deployed in different roles and responsibilities. Then we want to look at how ready is the business for this, culturally as well as organizationally. Is this an organization's really cutting edge by nature? Is it going to be a little bit more dragging some people along through education and demonstration? We want to define that. Then we want to assess how ready your team is and your organization is from a technical standpoint. Is the right licensing in place? Is the data ready? Are the settings correct? Those types of things. Then the security readiness, we can't harp on this enough. Chris mentioned the security through obscurity does not apply anymore, not that it ever should have, but we really need to make sure that you are secure and protected and things are classified in the right way. By the way, that applies whether you're planning on taking advantage of the value of AI or not, because the malicious actors will absolutely and already are leveraging tools that take advantage of generative AI for nefarious purposes. So you need to go through that anyway, whether your organization wants to get value out of it or not, quite frankly. And then we're going to go through a couple of scenarios and work with your team to figure out what are a couple of places that we want to start and really see this in action. So then what do you get out of this? You're going through that process. First, you get that baseline score. So this is going to tell you where you are today. That gives us a starting point. Then you're going to get a roadmap. So, okay, we know where you are. We've defined where you want to be, and the roadmap tells you how to get there. Recommendations for next steps. These are the tasks that need to be completed to move yourself along that roadmap. And then you're going to get those 2 proofs of concepts. We're going to work with you and your team in your real world scenarios to prove this out and allow your folks to start to actually see the value that can be delivered by the ideas that your team has come up with. So if you're not that familiar with Weidenhammer, you might be wondering, why should I work with Weidenhammer on this? Well, a couple of things. One, we've been around since 1978, and obviously the technology has changed dramatically over that time. But digital innovation is kind of our North Star, and transforming organizations in a positive way through the use of technology has been consistent from the first day we were founded. So in addition to that, specific to Copilot, we've been a Microsoft partner for over a quarter century. We are what used to be called a Microsoft Gold partner. They've changed the terminology, but we have specific designations, modern workplace and data and AI designations that come together to leverage development skill sets as well as infrastructure skill sets. That really is the intersection of those two where Copilot and AI comes. And so we have a ton of experience with that. We're regionally based out of southeastern Pennsylvania, but we have a national footprint, both with other offices as well as our clients. So with that all being said, we promised we would leave some opportunity at the end for people to ask and get questions answered. So I will take a look at what's been put in front of the group so far, but if you have anything to add, just remember at the top of the screen there, you can click Q&A, submit that through the chat, and we will address as many of those questions as we can in the remaining 15 minutes that we have. So I do see a handful of questions that have come in here. So we'll start with the first one, which is, can I trust that Copilot's answers are always accurate? Don, you want to take that one?
Sure. So Copilot, like a lot of other systems, suffers from garbage in, garbage out, right? So the answers Copilot are going to give you largely depends on the data you're giving Copilot. So we always recommend treat Copilot kind of like an intern, right? They can do a lot of the grunt work. It can create some great content, but you don't set it loose without, some checks and balances. You want to take a look at the information it's given you, vet it out, check its sources, make sure it's accurate.
I'll just follow up there. As you can see in the custom AI, Gen AI demo, with customizations, you can curb that hallucination factor that everyone's heard of with Gen AI, and you can even have fallbacks and logic related to, okay, I just don't know. This has to go to a person, generate an email and send this to HR or whoever the owners of knowledge might be.
Great. So with that being said, is Copilot able to use web content in its responses?
It's off by default, but that's one of the built-in plugins that are already there. So with the flip of a switch, if your use case, would benefit from both having your business content and context as well as information available on the internet, you can turn that on and it can combine the two.
Yeah. And that's in the domain of M365 Copilot. Like Don said, it's off by default. When you're dealing with customizations, again, you can have it go out to the broader internet and use what's called the foundational AI model, or you can just ground it on only your specific detail and data.
One of the points that we've been emphasizing throughout today's session, and rightfully so, is security and privacy, and they kind of go hand in hand. So someone has a question here. Can my employer review my interactions with Copilot?
One of the things that goes along with that is governance. Organizations need to make sure that their employees are using Copilot responsibly, they're using Gen AI correctly. So Microsoft has given some tools where you're able to, as an organization, create policies around what's allowed, what's not allowed, and monitor that for your end users. So it is all discoverable and such if needed.
All right. I guess speaking of individuals and how they use it, a question just came in. Do you two think that Copilot is going to be a bigger benefit for high-level, mid-level, or more entry-level employees, if you had to say?
That's really going to depend on use case. It fits everywhere. Personally, I'm not high level, right? I'm grunt work. I'm out there creating statements of work, things like that. And I use Copilot every single day and probably save an extra 8 hours a week just using Copilot on some of that content. So depending on how you have it deployed, it's going to fit everywhere, right? We've got examples for frontline users and how they can use Copilot. That mid-level sales managers, there's tons of use cases around that. And for the executive level, I think every executive out there has more meetings than they can possibly attend. The simple ability to follow a meeting and have it send you a recap afterwards instead of being able to attend that, Copilot in the box is going to fit all tiers. let alone once we start customizing. I'm sure Chris has some stuff on that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what you just said. And then obviously you can see what you can do when you do customize it and you do ground it on just the data and you have it act specifically in a certain way on certain types of data. What we've been saying here is Microsoft has done this before with BI, where they essentially took the approach of BI to the masses, BI for everybody. They're kind of doing the same thing here. They have AI for everyone. And so it really does apply to all levels of the business. And as I mentioned there with it's been very intriguing being someone who has consulted for years on business intelligence systems and the adoption and implementation of these systems, where it always started with the C-suite and then went down in terms of adoption. Here, giving it to everyone, giving it to all the end users has had a lot of benefit from what we've seen with organizations in coming up with new ways to use it, which is really the essence of adoption.
Chris, actually, a question just came in specifically on adoption, so I'll kick this one over to you. A lot of organizations have some employees who are maybe a little tech adverse, and they're more hesitant to embrace these new technologies. How do you recommend approaching that, sort of marketing it to those folks? Will the pre-flight assessment help with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, both from the M365 demonstrations and what it does, and the custom Copilot demonstrations and the POCs that we do. We identify proof of concepts both from the M365 out of the box domain and the custom domain that are relevant to the business and can really show the value of what Gen AI can do for you and what it can't do as well. So again, this is called demystifying AI. So it really kind of clears the smoke that we've been hearing about and really nails down what Gen AI can do in all contexts.
And to add on to that one, if we've got people that really are like tech adverse, they want to stay away from technology as much as possible, just let me do my job. They might have processes in their day-to-day that they're being asked to do. Hey, go out into our ERP, pull this report, do these calculations, follow up on this, do that. We can teach Copilot multi-step departmental or organization level skills. And instead of needing to know all those different pieces of technology and being able to do all that technically, they can just go into Copilot and in natural language ask it to do it for them, right? So like we're not asking, that's one of the benefits here. This is natural language stuff. We're not asking anybody to be super techy.
Right. And here's an example, actually, a question that came up with a specific use case. They're asking, can I use AI to automate invoice reconciliation? Is that possible?
So by invoice reconciliation, you mean the processing of forms? Absolutely. Now, that's not necessarily conversational AI or Gen AI, but there is Gen AI out there. Again, generative AI is the ability it's AI that can create things, can create new content or extract data and learn from that in the model. So yes, we do quite a lot actually with the ingestion of forms, PDFs, any type of electronic form you can think of, and extract the pertinent content from, say, invoices, obviously is a great example, and get it into a usable format where it can be used by other operational source systems. So not necessarily in context of conversational AI or Gen AI, but in forms processing, absolutely.
And then how is the quality of Copilot's responses evaluated?
That's going to be a qualified answer. Everybody's going to look at that a little differently, right? So if you're looking at that and the quality of the response, does it, and you're a salesperson and you're writing a document, does it sound like me? Does it convey the message that I want? Does it have the right tone? Of course, you can adjust all that and have it do it a couple different ways for you. Versus, I'm in finance, and is it technically accurate and have the right numbers in it? So evaluating that quality is going to be subjective to a degree to the person, but having it be accurate and things like that goes back to that other question of, how do you vet it? Is it accurate? Do you have the right data going into it to get the right data out of it? That type of thing. So there's going to be a couple layers to that question, and The answer is probably going to depend on who asked it.
And in the context of custom Copilot, as you saw in the demo, great, and one of the things I liked about that demo is that shows how you can have full transparency. You can see the citations of exactly where the data was coming from, whether it was a relational database, a PDF document, wherever. So the question, the end user always knows exactly where the context of this information is. In out-of-the-box Copilot, M365 Copilot, and then there's other avenues you can go down for customizations. You actually get the thumbs up, thumbs down buttons. Those allow end users to rate the performance of the responses and such. We just did a custom Copilot for someone the other day where we follow up with a did this help you? And if it did not help you, you can say no, and they can provide some other information that goes into a feedback form, and then that allows someone like us to better train the model appropriately.
Very good. And Don, people are asking if licensing costs. How do they work with something like this?
So for the out-of-the-box Copilot for M365, it's a per user license. So it's $30 per user per month, and you license the people that need to have the Copilot buttons in their application. So depending on how you're rolling it out, for most companies, especially in early phases, that's select groups as you're deploying that out. And the way we kind of look at that $30 a month, it might sound kind of expensive out of the gate. But if you look at it in the terms of a fully loaded employee at $70,000 a year, that's a little less than an hour of their time equals $30. So to break even, can Copilot save somebody, an average employee, an hour a month? And I mean, it saves me well over an hour a day. So I think that's a pretty low goal, pretty easy to hit in order to have it pay for itself. But that's not really what we're angling for here. Most people save way more than an hour a month using Copilot, so it nets out as a positive.
Right. Well, Don, Chris, thank you so very much. We do have one last question just popped in here. We're seeing that ChatGPT has actually been down this morning. Do you two think that we're moving too quickly in the direction of AI rather than relying on people?
I don't know who wants to take that first. I mean, things have gone. Yeah, it's the cloud, so things are going to go down, and there are fail safes for that. I can tell I've been working with our custom models here, and I can't speak to the ChatGPT implementation, but Copilot has been up the whole time. It's really just another tool in our toolbox. It doesn't replace anybody. It just it makes what we do, our day-to-day tasks, better. Whether you're a developer looking to generate a block of code that would have taken you 15 minutes to Google, or you're like you've seen in our use case examples, just streamlining a help desk ticket request or something like that. It's just it's the natural evolution.
Take it another direction. Probably everybody on this call has sick days built into your year, right? You're not up all the time either. So, it's a tool. It is early in the tool's life cycle, so there might be some hiccups here or there. But just like people get sick days, we don't replace them with robots. Just make sure you're again treating it like an intern. You've got backups. You've got other ways to handle it.
Two other questions here. One, Chris, you were talking a little bit about the security. Do we know if Microsoft collects information that businesses put into Copilot, particularly in something sensitive like a financial institution?
That was one of the points there. Part of their responsible AI initiatives, they guarantee and promise that they do not use any client information for their foundational chatbots. So nothing that is used within any organization is used for training any other chatbot, whether it be a custom one or someone's M365 Copilot. That's a guarantee that Microsoft makes.
Right. And I think we got time for one last question here. Don, back to licensing. Does the licensing need to be for all users in the tenant across the organization, or are you able to enable it just for a subset?
You can enable it for just a subset. So that's normally how we recommend is start with a core group, get them on there, get them trained up, make them champions, get some use cases out there, and let it grow organically, as well as purposefully through the organization. So yeah, you can roll it out as you need it.
Terrific. Well, Don, Chris, thank you very much. Everyone who hopped on, really appreciate it. We're excited about this stuff. If you are too and want to talk further, we're more than happy to do so. We will share the recording out, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thanks very much, all.
Thank you.